is essentially a crisis of capitalism, the key feature of which, of course, is an economic crisis which we are 10 years since the Great Recession, but I think it has worsened, particularly in the past months, not just at the level of the economic downturn that we have seen many workers losing jobs in their tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands in other industries, which has created a crisis of unprecedented proportion in terms of the levels of unemployment, which has reached about 10.2 million at the present moment. Of course, the growing levels of poverty, in addition to all the crises that we have been having, including, the backlog in housing, backlog in access, to education, backlog in every other service that, of course, are the subject of a growing and intensifying competition that has led to a kind of scapegoating that we are seeing, where people, of course, disappointed and disillusioned with, I don't know how it goes now. And see that.
Should have booked the City Hall. Should have booked the City Hall.
Actually, I think I should also apologize because you'll have seen that part of the change of the venue is that when you advertised the meeting, it was just supposed to be a small coordinating meeting in my office, top floor. Now it became clear, by yesterday that that will not suffice. But I think, comrades, as I conclude, the point that I'm making is that for us, what we are saying, what we are seeing in the explosion of the xenophobic violence of the past weeks is a concentration in, the multifaceted crisis that, of society, one could go so far as to say, the floods that are displacing people, in Mozambique, in Malawi, in Zimbabwe, of course, more and more rural areas, of this country that are hit either by droughts or by floods are in reality part of this multiple crisis of the system at all levels. And I think what we're all recognizing is that the ruling elite of this country and of the world over have absolutely no solution. As I've said, we are 10 years into this crisis, if you like. If you take, the Great Recession of 2008-2009 as a starting point, they have not been able to come with any solution. If anything, the situation is getting worse at all levels. Either it's unemployment, growing levels of poverty, and all of that. And I think what we are saying is that the solution has to come from the ranks of the working class, has to come from the ranks of our movement. And that's the reason that we have convened this meeting to begin to map, way forward. I think insofar as, the Federation is concerned, we have put a program in what is now called a Working Class Summit. And I don't know what's the name that we're using now. Working Class, suppose a summit, Working Class Movement. I think at some point we'll obviously give a chance to our GS also to come on that. Now, where we are seeking to, unite the working class, because what this xenophobia represents is a major threat to the cohesion and the unity of the only force in society that is capable of alternative to this crisis. And I think that is important to register. Many people think if today is migrants, that's where it will end. Let's be clear about it. I mean, the latest figures I was seeing is that, you know, the African migrants that are the main targets. Of course, there are people also from Bangladesh, people from, you know, Asia, and that's the reason I think it is fundamentally wrong to say it's just Afrophobia. The reality is this is a war of the poor on the poor across the spectrum. But that said, you know, the migrants from the continent, I think I'm told that they are just about 1.5 million. Now, in the context of an unemployed army of 10.2 million strong, what it means is that even if, and obviously none of us in this meeting can even raise that scenario, even if they were to succeed, you will still be sitting with over 8 million unemployed people in this country. If today it is migrant, tomorrow it will be on tribal lines, regional lines, and other fault lines. In a meeting I had this morning with the shop stores of the unions, and I made a point that, you know, the basis for this is not any, you know, right-wing South African brand of nationalism that you see in other countries and so on and so on. It's really about a struggle for a growing or, you know, diminishing number of jobs, you know, services and all of that. And the reality is, in that situation where a queue, you know, for jobs are growing, a queue for schooling, a queue for clinics, for health, for housing, all of that is growing. In the absence of the movement that can unite all of us to fight back and to fight for more, people begin to look, how do I eliminate people in competition against me? And you know, the metaphor that I used was that of, in wrestling there is this, you know, they call it last man standing. I think that's what, you know, where they just put a lot of people in the ring. What normally happens is that the big guys gang up to, you know, eliminate the, you know, the weaker ones up until the two big guys remain standing. Today, those vulnerable, the most vulnerable are the foreign migrants. Tomorrow, as you already see, for those of us who are working in this space, in, you know, in Witbank, where we represent one community around housing issue, is actually, you know, Nguni-speaking people who are protesting that, you know, in an Nguni-speaking area with a massive housing backlog, you have the best housing facility, which is a hostel that has been upgraded through one of these government programs, being occupied by babies. You know, when I went there, to my surprise, there were surveys and all these things and so on. Obviously, there's the of migrant labor and all these things and so on. And I think for me, that example just shows you where we're going. In Mamelodi, today, people are protesting that residents of Mamelodi are being excluded from housing allocations. And that is because housing developments are always allocated to people involved in protests, because government is not building enough housing. They are always managing a crisis. So the people involved in service delivery protests around housing are people in squatter camps, and those are mostly recent migrants. The old, you know, residents of Mamelodi, they erect migrants, you know, at the backyard of their own households. So you go to Mamelodi, is one house, there are 4 or 5 shacks behind, you know, at the backyard and so on and so on. And because of that, you know, children of Mamelodi, young people of Mamelodi don't get housing because, you know, their shacks are hidden, you know, behind formal housing and so on. And there is a corruption there where it's not even tribalism, you know, it's old migrants from from Limpopo having a problem with the recent migrants from Limpopo being prioritized over housing development. That, comrades, is the future. And that, I think, is a challenge for all of us to say, how do you confront this? So far as SAFTU is concerned, we've also proposed a program of action that I think at some point the GS will be able to speak about. But I think concretely for us, we must be speaking about a national shutdown. Firstly, to shut down the xenophobic voices that have been left unchallenged and monopolizing a conversation around these issues. That has to be a priority. The last thing more than that is that we must build an action that begin to raise issues that are behind these issues. Issues of jobs, issues of housing. Comrades, all the nice sounding appeals, sentimental appeals to brotherhood, sisterhood, is not going to fly. Our people are disparate. Our people need solutions. Only we, through our unity, through our organization, through the struggle, we can provide that. Thank you, Chair.